Cool. So thank you so much for being here. It's the very first Tea Talk of the year. So I'm excited. And I really want to do this because a lot of people going into New Year's, all December, you see New Year, new me, you see homegirl with the blocks with her bag on, all the things she was leaving in the past year and bringing into the next year. And so I think it's really important to have this discussion about keeping your goals and keeping your mindset steady in the new year, but also in the pandemic where there's so much going on and so much commotion and a lot of distractions. So we'll dive into that. But I would like to welcome Miss LaToia Burkley of your event
Hello.
debut. Thank you so much for being here. Um, can you do give us a quick introduction of who you are, what your business is, and the services that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. You set me up great. I coach professional women who need clarity on their career journey, and typically that's peeling back some of the layers behaviorally to items that are roadblocks on their professional path. That can be limiting beliefs. That can be lack of accountability, which I'm sure we'll deep dive a little bit more about tonight, and just helping them really have just what my business name says, their big debut. What is it that they're going to step from behind the curtain on, right? And in 2021, I think a lot of it brings me so much kind of inner peace to see the professional journey of women, especially Black women, has just grown, evolved, morphed than at the inception of my business. So I'm always very excited to see, what the future holds on professional and career pathing.
Great. Thank you so much. I actually met you last year at I got like you invited me to one of your events, and that was a great time. So thank you again for that. So I wanted to just diving back to the title of the event. Do you even believe that is New Year, New Me a real thing?
It's so interesting that you asked that question. Um, it certainly is on social media. If we just take that phrase, New Year, New Me, if I'm talking to this inanimate lamp and I'm saying, Lamp, it's New Year, new you, how many years have you said that? Do you say that every year? New Year, New Me, is it a thing? It's a thing if one needs it to be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I am all for reinvention, but I also believe that reinvention or change, just overarchingly, doesn't have to just start at the beginning of the year. Change and reinvention can start when you identify what you want to change, what you want to move on, and then do it. Just do it.
Yeah. Um, and I think, that's just it's a common thing that, people they make these plans and they have the best intention going into the new year, but they have a very, very hard time keeping them. And my question was really, what are some common things that you've seen when working with business owners, individuals? What is what some of the main things that they find hard to maintain those goals, and especially you have clients now. So what are you seeing now with clients in the new year about like how am I with the pandemic? How am I maintaining myself, my wellness, my business,
Yeah.
my goals in the new year?
Certainly when I'm working with individuals, it's it's a laundry list. And it's not different. The what makes one not stick to their goals
Mhm.
is it's the same thing we've seen in years past, and it's typically the same thing we see anytime a person aborts an idea. um Usually they're not in it to win it.
Mhm.
If we're talking about goals specifically, especially something tangible, they were shamed or guilted into doing it. I love it when I'm in a group now, or even pre-COVID, in a group of girls, and someone says, "Come on, girl, let's." Oh, such and such just came out. Don't you want to do this with me? And I'm like, oh, that's such a kiss of death. Six out of the six of y'all, four of y'all are gonna ditch this effort,
Here,
right?
yes, like that does sound fun. And like, how often do we really just be like, I can't because I told myself this year I wasn't going to do it. How often do we really just give into it because it's just like, you know what? Especially in the pandemic, it's like, you know what? Outside's on fire, whatever, let's go.
Right, right.
So I think that's really hard to keep a hold on. And also just like, it's another one of the questions that I had too, like with the pandemic and life circumstances are constantly changing. Like you have to be able to adjust with things that come in nowadays. But I think before we get into actually like sticking to goals, setting the goals, period. So how do you actually go about making tangible goals in this kind of state of the world right now? And I showed you earlier, like I do it every single year. I made a list of things I wanted to do for the year, possibly achieve. Some are like big, some are small. And so like this is it. It's like it's for I mean, I'm at 45 right now. So this is the front and the back. And it's just like some smaller things like I want to go to bed by 10:30. I need to buy a full-length mirror. I want to read one book per month. And so this is just, some bigger things and smaller things about my business where I want to double what I did last year. Things that are important to me and my partner, where, being a more, things like being more open about my emotions with my partner. So some things that may be a little simpler to achieve, so maybe a continuous effort to do so. But how do you go about really establishing what goals are tangible?
Yeah, I want to pause that question if I can and go back to, because I think in the answer we lend into, okay, how do I set and keep tangible goals? Let's re-examine kind of why some folks hit the abort button. We talked about, goals can be trendy. Some folks are just not in it to win it. When we talk about tangible goals specifically, most people have a great goal in mind. They have a great one or two things that they want to do, but they don't have the systems to support it.
Mm,
So maybe wellness is is their goal, and it doesn't have to be just weight loss. When we're talking about wellness, it could be dietary habit changes, maybe cutting out something that's not healthy to the body,
mm,
but they don't have the systems to support that. So, a person wants to have this wellness journey where they're cooking more and they're cooking fresh stuff more. Maybe they want to follow like a Whole 30 type or a keto type, eating system, but their grocery budget doesn't support,
right.
how they lend themselves. Maybe, um, another one is, maybe the goal is not so much tangible like wellness. Maybe it's more internal, something that's not quite manifest to a lot of people, like managing emotions better, having a self-care process, healing. They don't have the systems to support that. They haven't allotted the time necessary for self.
Right.
So, it's a person wants to take up a journaling practice, or they want to have express more gratitude. They haven't built those things into their day. So once the system fails, then the goal is not going to come through. Also, there's no accountability. I think most individuals go into goals and goal setting as a lone wolf. And I'm very much, and I don't want it to sound like I'm talking out of two mouths as much as I'm expressing balance. I'm all for people who dip out, do a bunch of awesome things, and then come back and show you the results.
Mhm.
I also I also know, see with clients, see in kind of global business, the danger that it is in not having sounding boards, whether that's mentors, whether that's just, I call them your board of directors, right? Those 4 or 5 people, no more than 10 is probably, it may be too much, but those trusted individuals who not only hold you accountable but can help you see your blinders. And when we talk about goal setting, intention, vision, whatever you want to call it, that's really imperative. And then lastly, and certainly I see this often when I'm working with entrepreneurs or working with businesses, they don't have a good fail recovery system. So, the goal, there may be a revenue goal, but by first quarter they haven't met that, so they're done with it. They didn't get close, and you know what? They out, abort mission.
Your heart is hurt. Like I don't know. I tried and I tried. I did things didn't work out, and I think um yeah, I think people a lot of times look for that, kind of instant gratification where I set a goal and it's just going to happen. And I think a lot of it goes back to what you said before, having those accountability partners, having someone in your corner that you can actually, keep up with alongside of you. Because I think like I think a lot of I like myself. I have different friend groups. Like my main friend groups are like my good time friends. Like we can talk, we can joke. We have a group chat. We're in there all day, dropping memes from Instagram and gifs and stuff like that. Is they are hilarious. But do I honestly have just like a strong group of like business minded people in my life? No, like my boyfriend is, since I run business ideas by him. Like he was on my butt in December. It's like, don't talk to me about nothing else to put in your business plan for next year. I'm like, you just make me sit down and do it. But having, like you say, your board of directors, your like I like to call it your business besties. People are there are similar to you, whether you are a business or you are a student and you're with other PhD or masters or other graduate students, or you are someone in a similar field as you. I think it's important to have that balance of people in your life. And I think people have a hard time separating them. It's because not with the separation. It's just like, you deal with people accordingly. And I think that's what it is, because people kind of feel like I'm being fake because I want to talk to this friend group about this, or I talk to these people about this one, but I want to bring them all together. And I don't. I think once you get older, you realize that that's not realistic and that's not what it is. It's just some people just have a certain space in your life, and that's okay. Um,
It's interesting. I wanted to mention something. Let me see if I can find it. Um, because I can't think of her last name, and I want to make sure that this is that all of your listeners get this point, because it was something that I knew, but then when I heard someone else say it, it was completely different. I'm not going to waste our time, but she is a Instagram influencer, who also does business consulting and e-commerce. I'm not even going to mention the reference because I'm going to mess it up. But the idea is, where you're talking about, that separation.
mhm.
Some people don't have the language to deal with you at the level that you are,
Yeah.
and that's period, right? The flip side of that coin is, especially when we talk about entrepreneurship, if one has the goal to, I don't know, they want to be six figures in 3 years, but they're rolling with people who are struggling, who consistently living check to check, the two will never meet up. You are the average of the five people you spend the most time with. You become the average of them. So if you want to roll with people who are successful and thriving as six-figure entrepreneurs, who are serial entrepreneurs, you absolutely cannot spend the majority of your time, certainly your good mental energy, with people who either A, are not going to support you there, or don't have that lifestyle set up to help you see that vision. And oftentimes, to your point, it sounds harsh, but that's really that's the reality of it.
Yes, and so like I like it's so I think people have a hard time because it doesn't feel genuine for a lot of people to have that separation. But like I said, I think when you get older, it kind of naturally happens that way too. But I mean, if you are, like I said, if you are an entrepreneur, you need to have other entrepreneur friends. If you are a student, you need to have other student friends. If you are a parent, you should probably have other parent friends. Even like some people that I know that are like the one mom of the whole group, they're like, they don't understand. Like, I cannot stay until 1 in the morning
Right.
because my babies are at home. The same way, like I can't. Some people, like, I can't go and be gone for 2 weeks because I have a business back here. I can't. I have to come back. Like I said, I wanted to visit my boyfriend. I can only stay for a weekend because I got to get back. I have orders to fulfill. I have people to reply to. I have tea to pack. And I think in this, you have to have people in your life that understand that balance in your life as
Right.
well. So it's not just, oh, I just have this group and this group, but they all need to understand what's going on in your life and be respectful of that as well. So it's not some, oh, I can't, girl, I have to pack tea today. Oh, you said that last week. Like that's not okay. Because as a friend, no matter what proportion of your life they're in, they need to be fully supportive of whatever goal it is in your life, whether it's an extra degree, more revenue for your business, more marketing, or whatever, or any kind of advancement of your life. They need to be down for 110%. Even if they're not the person that you go for business advice, those are your cheerleaders. They might not be on the board, but they are cheerleading on the side. And that's incredibly important to have, even if it's not as far as business or school or anything like that. Even if it's just, I'm trying to lose 10 pounds. I'm not about going to invite you to the barbecue festival.
Yeah,
I'm just
you can't hang out with the pizza and wine weekend friends if
no.
if that's going to be counter to your goal, to your wellness goal.
It's just I think what you said is so important. Just having that circle of people around you that not only acknowledge what you're trying to do for yourself and what your goals are, but being respectful of them is incredibly important as well. Because that does weigh heavily on people actually achieving their goals. But their goals is not what's going on around them, with like the pandemic, but who you have around you, who you have in your ear. Do they? Because sometimes people they're just here, they don't really align with you or what you have going on, but they're familiar, and familiarity is comfortable.
I'm a firm believer that not everyone who came with you is to stay with you.
Mhm.
The old adage, some people are for a reason, some people are for a season. It's up for it. It's The onus is on the relationship to work itself out, and both individuals have to be okay if this when and I'm talking about individuals, but in the relationship, one has to say, has this served its purpose? Have we outgrown it? And maybe it's not the other person, maybe it's me.
Yeah,
Maybe this person has outgrown me, not the other way around. And that's okay. We're As humans, we're hardwired to always want a piece of something and to always belong, right? Part of
right.
Maslow's hierarchy. We want that. So when we have to separate from groups and individuals, it's not always the easiest is it's not always the easiest task. Certainly within the Black community, um it comes with a lot of static,
Think you better who you think you are now. You think you're better
correct.
than us now, because baby, the homies from the block love pulling that line out. Once you get your toenail out the you jump off the step off the porch. Once you out, just like you start to become a little more unfamiliar, because your surroundings have changed, your priorities have changed, your goals have changed. And once again, I would like to reiterate, like, just because they don't fit so completely into what your idea of your future is, that doesn't mean you have to cut them out of your life. It's just kind of adjusting and realigning where people are in your life. You don't have to kick them out completely. It's like, I don't know you when we're done. No, it's just realigning where people are in your life. And that in itself is not easy either, because they're going to see it, they're going to feel it. But I think clear communication is also important in those situations. You don't have to be like, well, you just don't fit anymore. I think it's a much cohesive and nicer way you could come from.
Right.
I was just like, I'm trying to achieve this in my life. I'm just I'm leaning more towards this part. And that's just what I have going on in my life. It just, that doesn't have to be like you don't fit anymore. But I think people at some point they see that you are changing, and if they want clarity, you can be clear with them. Like, I am changing. I want to live healthier. I want to go to bed by 10:30. I want to save more money. The things that I want for my life are changing. And that's all. Like, my love and respect for you hasn't changed. It's just what I want has changed.
Right. What's that the Jay-Z line? um I don't be in the hallway all day talking about how I be in the hallway all day. It is very much par for the course when we're maturing. It's not even about setting goals, right? Everything that we're discussing right now, that's growth. That's just, if you boil it down to the brass tacks, that is the essence of growth.
As ultimately, like, it is a new year. Like, we love a new year, new me, but it's sometimes it is a new you. It's a growner, as a more fulfilled you. It's a new level of you. And I think that's okay. And I think people, especially in the Black community, because we feel the need to stay humble and stay relative to our surroundings, we desire validity from the people around us. And so a lot of times we kind of like we tend to, especially Black women, we have a habit of shrinking ourselves to fit the people around us, our family members, the people that,
Hmm.
once
Hmm.
again, are comfortable with the version of us that knows us. And a lot of times it does hinder our growth and how we achieve the whatever goals we set for ourselves.
Yes.
So I think that's incredibly important to note as well. Yeah, go ahead.
when you were talking when talking about the fail recovery system, and kind of how we've gone from that and evolved to growth, in his book Atomic Habits, which you of all people know, like, I would, if I could afford James Clear and his wife and could pay them a per diem just to come live with me and help my day function. One of the famous quotes in his book Atomic Habits is, if you skip a day, that's fine, but make a commitment not to skip two. So if
Mhm.
you miss the gym day, one day is fine, 2 days is not. So, when we look at folks who start something, they have this intention, they have this goal set, but then they abort mission. That fail recovery has to say, I need to be flexible. I'm imperfect. Circumstances will change,
Mhm.
right? If I skip a gym day, I just need to be committed not to skip two in a row. So
Mhm.
I may not be able to make it on Monday, but I've got to try harder on Tuesday. And understanding that, if it's fitness specifically, if we're talking about fitness as a tangible goal, then maybe the fail safe is, okay, I may not be able to make the gym, but then on Monday, but then I know on Tuesday I've got to run the block. I may
Yeah.
not even be able to get back to the gym on Tuesday, but I need to do something so the one doesn't turn into two turns into three. When most people get to a week's worth of missed anything, they're done because they feel like, well, I didn't do a good job sticking to it, so why should I even? It's not even a great idea for me to try and start over.
When I tell you crawling, I can even say crawling, bear crawling myself out the mud from taking a break during the holidays. That was me. Like, I have been on the balls. I actually canceled my gym memberships on my home. I don't have the bike, but I have the Peloton workout app, which is incredible. And which is I was doing that every single day. I went and found some weights at Target. I was like, okay, I'm on it. I'm doing the stretches. Because they have yoga, they have meditation, they have stretching, they have strength, they have cardio. I'm like, okay. And so, like, I'm not gonna lie, I only do the black ones because they sound like me, and they play like hip hop and R&B. Like, I can do that one. But when I took that break and I sat down, and then we got back to work last Monday, and then work got busy again, and then the routine that I created was shot to hell. Like, it just did not exist at
Sure.
all anymore. Like, I was getting out of bed at like 7, so I can like brush my teeth, get a workout in before my 8:30 meeting in the
Oh,
morning.
so not a morning
Like,
person.
I went and bought a ninja smoothie, like ninja blenders. I made my little smoothie. And then by the time I've showered, I've moisturized, I'd have, plucked my little unibrow, I've sat here, my laptop's open, I'm ready for my 8:30 meeting. I can honestly say, I've been crawling out the bed at 7:45. I will go and brush my teeth. I will drink some water, and I will throw on a t-shirt because I'm not putting on pants. I'm at home. And I will sit here and I will wipe the crust out of my eyes and put my glasses on so they can't see the bags under my eyes, the dark under my eyes. And I will open that window because that window has the sun that's like shooting right at me and it looks weird. And I will sit here and just be like, and mute. The screen is on because I have to have my screen on. And once it's time for me to speak, I drink water so my voice isn't hoarse because I'm just out of bed. So my discipline, like it was shot. And so I'm working my way out of that now because I let it get to day 2, 3, 4, week 1, week 2, and it was just off. But now, like, I'm getting back to it. I worked out Sunday, I worked out Monday, I worked out yesterday, I took a rest day today because I did 2 back-to-back hard days. But I've kept my diet, not my diet, but I didn't have a burger today. This is great for me. I haven't had liquor at all this. I haven't had liquor this week, so basically,
I'm so mad that you had to check yourself.
look, I did not even attempt at a dry January because I was not about to play myself. But I do enjoy like a glass of wine like every other night. I'm not a heavy drinker, but I genuinely enjoy the taste of wine. So,
Mhm.
but it's just things like that. Like, I do believe in indulging in joy, and so I will do the things like I will have a glass of wine. I don't drink a bottle of wine at a time, but it does bring me joy. So I think those things, while even trying to have a healthier lifestyle, it's incredibly important to also implement those things that genuinely bring you joy. If
Absolutely.
you want to go and, you love cheesecake, girl, go get that slice of cheesecake. One slice.
Right.
And you
For
can
the week.
Yes, you can. That can be a Friday treat to yourself. Like, you don't want to completely deprive yourself, because that is actually hindering to everything that you do, because you don't want to become so strict in yourself that you just drain all the joy out of your life. Like you said, you took 1 week off every month since October, which is incredible. But that's a part of, I think, as much as we want to dive into discipline, I think another conversation people need to have is understanding another sense of radical self care as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
goes beyond just saying, I'm gonna meditate for 5 minutes before I get. How like truly, especially now, it's a pandemic outside. Once again, like in the pandemic, we have goals that we set. We want, okay, I want to do that. I would say for my friend group, like I made my list and they're like, why? Like I'm not making a list. Like I think I'm the only person I know that actually made a list. Because for me, it's important to say, like, even if I don't achieve them, it's something that I have in my mind that I know I want to achieve. It's not like I want to write a book and get stuff published. Like, no, it's just
Right.
I I want to do a pedicure for myself once a week, because I'm not going to the nail shop. Like, these are terrible. I've not had my nails done in it'd be a year next month. And so just small things like that. But I love getting my hair done. I love getting my nails done. I haven't had in a year. So you know what? I'm gonna go scrub my feet. So I'm gonna start scratching my sheets up in 2021. Things like that. Very simple, but it's doable. And so like it wasn't like a big thing, but even the places I want to be more disciplined as far as saving more money. I want to be healthier. Like I'm a former student athlete, and I haven't trained since 2013 when I was a student athlete. So once I got out of the routine of seriously not working out, but training every day, and because I didn't have to anymore, I kind of fell off it. So I want to get, just healthier. Like I'm a small woman. That does not mean I'm healthy. I'm just small. But the things like I do I want to be healthy, and that does take a lot of discipline. But there are some, like I love food. It is a genuine love relationship.
Me too.
Things like I'm just not taking away from myself. I'll just stop. I'll use a little less salt here, add a little more veggies here. It's just learning to adjust and add balance to your life with those things. But I think um and I said earlier, I commend you for that, because that's one thing I definitely wanted to dive more into, especially like I'll be 30 this year. Getting a sense of radical self care beyond just telling people no,
Hmm.
not answering an email once a day or pushing the email back to the next day. Like, that is, I think that's especially with, especially for Black people, Black women, because a lot of Black women, it's not just holding yourself down, it's a whole family, it's the block,
Right.
it's the community. A lot of Black women, we put a lot on ourselves, and we put the hood on our back. And so, even if it's not just a radical, just some type of self care, things that bring you joy, I think has to go alongside whatever discipline you want to implement for yourself. You have to have joy in there somewhere too.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting because, in the space where we're talking about self-care and goals, that's a common goal that I've heard with my clients currently. They have seen the need coming out of 2020 to have a better self-care routine and what that means. And, when we talk about discipline and even just saying maybe it's not radical self-care, I challenge that. It is radical self-care. It's the individual who has to define what is radical.
Mhm.
Me taking a week, a month away from work, period. Yeah, I could have easily sat back and said, man, that's going to impact my client calendar, which it has.
Mhm.
And my clients have adjusted well to the idea that, okay, well, they'll go in and, as soon as my calendar opens for the month, my clients who are very disciplined in their coaching sessions, as soon as my calendar opens or as soon as it's the beginning of the month, they're going in and scheduling all their stuff. They've made the adjustments. It's easy for us to say, well, I can't do the thing because of, going back to goals, the system that they have. A mom who's a single mother who's supporting a household, no, may not have it tangibly to take a week away from a week's worth of PTO every
Right.
month. Their employer may not support that. They're just for a number of reasons, it may not fit for her circumstances, but there is something that she can do,
Yes. Like,
even if that's a matter of putting the kids to bed 30 minutes earlier and leaving the dishes dirty in the sink
mhm,
until the next morning, so
mhm,
that that 30 minutes is solid for her 3 times a week. And it's trial and error in those spaces, which goes back greatly to, well, then, how do you set those tangible goals? How do you say you're going to do the thing? And I think, for me, if we use the example of, for one business week, Monday through Friday out of each month, doesn't have to be the same month,
yes.
I don't work, period. And if it's mission critical, unless someone is on fire, one must contact me via phone, which means you've got to have not my business cell phone, you have to have my cell phone number. um I had to start with my why. The phrase is, the bigger the why, the easier the how, right? The why was my radical self-care. That was in the space of, you know, isolation. It's been a year since I've been in Rhode Island, and out of 12, out of 12 months, 13 months, 8 or more of them have been in quarantine and in pandemic. So I haven't had the ability to be social. I'm very much ambiverted. I recharge alone. So having my books and my wine and having my quiet time, I enjoy that. But there are opportunities where the extrovert wants to get out. I love to travel and had a whole book of business when we talk about traveling for 2020 that
Yeah.
I'm not going to get back, right? So
Yeah.
say all that to say, in that grieving process, I had to say, well, what's the need to take a week off? The ones in 2 days that I'm gonna take a Monday, I'm gonna take, Friday, or I'm gonna stop working at 2 on Tuesday, wasn't working. It wasn't enough. But it took me to say, well, why isn't it enough? Because when I come back from a day of not working, I'm still drained. I'm still tired. I can't cut through the fog. And I'm coming back to quadruple the work, which means I had to set up systems on the back end that was going to support me being away from work for a week. So I know that I need to front load whatever that absent week is going to be.
Mhm.
2 weeks prior, I've already front loaded the work. So when I come back, emails are ready to send. They're auto populated. My social media calendar is already full for the month. I don't have to worry about posting. That takes time. That's more than just waking up and saying, I've got to have a better self-care routine. And that's where the discipline comes into, not just executing the thing, but really getting crystal clear on your why. The bigger the why, the easier the execution. And I think if more people spent time on the why they're going to do the thing, why they want to be committed to the thing, and go back to that often, it's less likely that they'll hit the abort button when they run into turbulence.
Absolutely. And getting into the last question I have from which is my favorite one, and discussing imposter syndrome. And I
Oh
think
my
a lot
goodness.
of people, they avoid goal setting as much as possible. And I think one thing that I found just talking to a lot of people, they want things, but they question if they're even deserving of, if they're qualified for it. Do you see that often with people that you work with?
All the time, because I coach professional women. I don't do one-on-one coaching any
Mhm.
longer, with any of my male peers, or when I say peers, male professionals. um Imposter syndrome. Here's what I would love to see as we move into 2021 and beyond. We've named imposter syndrome, and really what we've done is we've taken lack of self-confidence and limiting beliefs, and we gave it a wardrobe, and that dress is called imposter syndrome. If I strip away the label, amongst a lot of other probably emotional affects, there is lack of confidence, limiting beliefs. Imposter syndrome stems from one of those two things, if not both in tandem. And when we talk about imposter syndrome, sometimes it can be more than just the I'm not qualified to do this. Procrastination is one of the biggest verticals of imposter syndrome that we don't talk enough about. A person may get let's say it's a project. They may get a project and they're assigned the project and it's due by end of second quarter and they've stalled on the project, not because it's not work that they're not jazzed about doing. The imposter syndrome shows up and says, you'll do this when you feel that you are capable to do it. Right.
Mhm.
And I don't think we talk about that enough. We just label procrastination as someone who doesn't want to do the thing. But imposter syndrome also moves a person to not want to do the thing and then have to sweat it out at
Mhm.
the 11th hour. Procrastination is also a part of imposter syndrome. So when we're talking about imposter syndrome and goal setting, we really need to sit down and say, what are the layers behind the thing? When I work with my clients, one of the other things that we talk about often is we're not going to eradicate imposter syndrome because no one person is going to be perfect. I,
Right.
we are all imperfect individuals, and we will stay that way for a certain amount of time. So instead of looking to get rid of imposter syndrome, our energy is better spent as individuals of recognizing when it comes up. What
Mhm.
is the trigger that makes it come up? And then being mindful when that imposter syndrome starts to creep up. Much like any thought, a thought, thoughts and emotions pass just like clouds do. I keep looking over here because I think you all can see my window next to my home office. Passes like clouds, and I can sit here in a work day and watch and watch the scenery go from sunrise to noonday to sunset, and that is exactly how our thoughts work. They can come in our mind, but it's up to us if we let them take up all that real estate. When one feels unqualified, maybe it's speaking in front of people, maybe it's learning a new skill at work, and that imposter syndrome creeps up. It's an exercise in mindfulness. It's to say, ooh, I'm sweating and I feel sick because I know Amber's going to ask me to present these, new numbers for our marketing proposal, and I don't feel qualified to do that. Stop. Why do you not feel qualified to do that? Before any one person assigns a value that this feeling is good or bad, just let that feeling come up, let it hang out there for a little bit, but you still have to do the thing.
Mhm.
It's when imposter syndrome says don't do the thing.
Mhm.
We all battle imposter syndrome. Men do too. And in some industries, even more than women, depending upon their level, what they're doing for an occupation. But we have to just remember that it's a lack of confidence, or it has to do with a limiting belief, or it is those two things merged. And then if it's crippling enough, clinical help may be necessary to peel back those layers further. I can shamelessly say, when we're talking about one's career journey, it's probably time to seek out a coach at that point. But in the idea of, if there's a limiting belief, how do we get you to get your power back?
Mhm.
Because if the imposter syndrome is hindering you from being great, why don't you want to be great?
And ultimately, like you said, it's just a thought.
That's it.
No one said it's true, but you. It's just the thought. And okay, the nerd is about to come on and be hard. So
Oh,
I
we can super nerd it. You can always nerd it up with me.
I love, love, love Steven Universe. And Estelle plays a character named Garnet. And it was this one episode. You don't do this, but Kanye had a little like sit down with Garnet, and it's a song called "Here Comes the Thought," and it's exactly imposter syndrome. Like, is this how I lose me? No, it's just a thought. And I'm like, it's funny because like that show, it's a cartoon, it's a Cartoon Network, but it is such it's so much awareness in this cartoon show, and it's such a beautifully written, like Rebecca Sugar did that. It's such a beautifully written, very aware, very conscious show that it's a kid's show, but it's very relatable even as an adult because we go through these things too. Like, clearly, it's just, I actually have it on my Tea Party playlist on Spotify. So when people they actually have it here. So when I send like packages for orders, I send a thank you card, and it has the link for the scanner for the Spotify here. And it's actually on my Tea Party playlist because I started using this as my meditation song because I used to have really bad anxiety. Because the thing with me is like, I know I have a hard time being present. So my mind is what I need to do tomorrow, next year, what I want to do next year, and 10
Right.
years in my mind is constantly like in the future. And so me being present is hard. And therefore my mind constantly being in the future leads me to have some anxiety, which leads a lot to imposter syndrome as well, where it's like, I don't know, like, I'm not there yet. Should I be doing this? Like,
Hmm.
and I think for me, my business, like, I'm on social media because I own and operate alone. So I like doing social media posts. And I'm like, I have people that I also follow that own tea businesses as well, other Black owned businesses. And I'm like, and I remember once again, my boyfriend had to calm me down. But it was, I think it was over the summer maybe. And it was a few tea businesses. Like one was in like Essence, one was on Beyonce's. And I'm
Oh.
like,
Hmm.
I'm here. I'm here. But my mom's like, girl, you've been in business for a year. They've been
And
in business,
comparison is the thief of joy.
man.
Goodness gracious.
My Lord. And I sat there and he had to calm me down, man, FaceTime me, and he let me cry. And he's like, what is like, I was like, I'm just not where I want to be. He's like, Amber, you've been this for a year. Like it's been a hard, a solid year. Like from the opening of my website to now, it will be 2 years in April. But it's just like exactly that. Comparison is the thief of joy. And I think when it comes
Period.
to even setting, maintaining and sticking with your goals, when you see other people maybe getting a little ahead of you further than you think you are or you should be, it's hard sometimes. And especially with social media, because it's constantly in your face. Where like I said, oh, she's in Essence, she's in Marie Claire, Beyonce. It's like, excuse
Yeah.
me.
Hmm.
It's like it was hard. But like because I want so much for myself. I'm very future driven. It's just like you like and just remind yourself, like, kid, you're doing good. Like you're doing great actually. And so I think a lot of it goes to just being kinder to yourself. Like you beyond having your board of directors and your other friends that cheerlead for you, you have to cheerlead for yourself. Like, girl, you are doing fantastic. You are, you still have your health. You are doing this, you're doing that. You are not where you were yesterday. And that sometimes just being enough is more than enough.
The journey always starts and ends with you. It
Yeah.
always starts and ends with the individual.
Yeah.
And in those spaces, it's just there's so many crippling, there's so many crippling poisons out there, social media being one of them. Trust me, as I love social media and I hate social media as an entrepreneur. It's a facet of my business, but I do understand the detriments, right? We have so much generationally as Black women that was handed to us that we didn't ask for, that we don't know how to manage now. We don't know how to manage our own catty behavior. There's a large, if it's a pie chart, there's a large piece of the pie where we don't really know how to be honest with ourselves to the molecular level, right? At the cellular level. We get into these, we build our own personal hells around things that at the end of the day weren't even important. And I mean, not just, oh, not important to the individual, important globally. They
Yeah.
didn't have any impact to this relationship, to this job, to this term paper. They had no impact whatsoever. And one doesn't get that energy back once it's wasted.
No one put that on us but us. No one
Correct.
knew what that was about. No one said that about you but you. You saw something, you read something, you went and automatically compared yourself because of what we're so used to doing. And especially in like in American society where it's just like, not even American, in Black society, everyone's like, I'm trying to get like you. And like, especially Black community is, who has the most money, who did what, whose house is this. And I think,
Yeah.
especially the social media, like we always like amplify Black excellence. And sometimes, most of the time it's like, a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, a chemist, and he thinks, oh, I just blend tea.
I
Like,
do hair.
right, I just like no, it's not
Right.
just do this. I think people we down ourselves so much because in your mind you're not what you consider to be a global definition of Black excellence or excellence period. Like you're not doing enough, and I think we have a habit in totality of not just in the just Black community, but in general that we in our mind that we're not doing enough.
Correct.
And sometimes I think we really need to get to a point where we understand that even if we're just doing better than we did yesterday, sometimes simply being enough is more than enough.
And enough on your terms, which
Yeah.
means you would have to define, the individual has to define what that enough is.
And that's something that we, even going back to like how do you set goals? It has to be in alignment to you. And I think a lot of people have a hard time defining what they need for themselves or what's important to them because they haven't figured out who they are just yet. Um,
And if they haven't figured out who they are just yet, if that's the run conversation, then and they haven't got there yet, then the walk is, okay, well, what are your values?
yes.
And most people haven't done that, let alone gotten to the bigger work of who are you, the individual. Well, what are your values? What are non-negotiables for you? Is it family? Is it um
That
you,
non-negotiables.
yeah, what are your non-negotiables? Because if you have a set of non-negotiables, your values drives that. So when things come into your life that are not in alignment with your values, those are easy no's. Right?
Mhm.
That's an easy, I can't do this. It's an easy, actually, I'm going to turn down this job offer because it's going to require me to work every other weekend. And my weekends are non-negotiable because I have family to take care of, or because I'm going back to school, or whatever that is. I don't know that we as individuals, certainly as Black women, we don't do enough work around our values. We don't have those established.
Yeah, I think it's we're just such nurturing beings, and we're always trying to take care of people. Always, it's like, girl, what about you? We're constantly, and it's just not. I think for a lot of us, it's not intentional. We just naturally do it, but we constantly concerned about other people and making sure everyone and everything else around us is set, and then that may bring us in peace, but you've kind of forgot you along the way also, which is why I said before, going back to the whole point of like setting goals is important, but you gotta throw little sprinkles of joy in there. You have to.
Unequivocally and unapologetically, the joy should actually lead. I think in years past, and I mean like 10, 12 years, we kept saying happiness, happiness, happiness. And we understand now better that happiness is not a destination as much as it's a choice. It's a choice that a person can have. And to be happy doesn't necessarily mean that one has a smile on their face every day or doesn't go through turbulence in life. I think we're better with that. We don't talk enough about joy, and when we do, it's a byproduct of something else. When really joy needs to it's the driver of the bus.
Yeah, and I think that all goes back to, when you set your goal, what the ultimate goal of setting those goals are. A lot of people, it's happiness, it's peace, it's stillness, it's organization for some people. But all of it, I think a lot of it really just goes back to finding and sustaining happiness when you set goals and you maintain goals. And I think, like you said earlier, it's okay to hop off every now and then because people mess up, players mess up too, but you have to get back on that bus and that horse at some point, and it's okay. I think being kinder to yourself along that ride is so important. Like, it's a whole panty outside. People are dying. People are getting evicted still. People don't have food for their homes. Like, you just look. Being kind to yourself is so so important right now. Just because we life literally every day is something new. Life
Mm-hmm.
is constantly changing, and I think the probably the simplest thing right now is to be kind to yourself, because compared to everything else, that actually may be the easiest thing at this point.
It's one of my favorite Brene Brown quotes where she says, "Grace will get you places that your hustle can't."
Ooh,
And that's
yeah.
just the bottom line, right? Talking more about joy, talking more about grace and exercising grace in one's life. And grace is more than flexibility. Grace is the opportunity to step back and say, I messed up. This didn't work.
Mhm.
And tomorrow, I'm going to either do it again or do something different.
Yeah.
And you know what? We didn't meet Q3 revenue. And it's not that it's okay as much as we're going to let this happen because tomorrow is going to be a new day. And we're going to be okay with, what is it? Uh, Again, I need not quote the reference because I can't remember the term very well, but I know for folks who are deep into like, mindfulness and things like that, the space where in this moment, there's a bunch of stuff going on around me. um Folks are dying in pandemic, losing jobs, the I live next to the fire station, so you hear the sirens all the time when I'm in client calls, when I'm on panels, when I'm doing, proposals and pitches.
Mhm.
There's a space in our minds that says, yeah, it's all doing this right now, but you right now in this moment, you're fine.
Mhm.
Let that happen, let this happen, let this noise take place. We don't do enough of that, and grace lends itself to that, to say in this moment, it's fine, it's
I
fine.
think I think, like you said, but just thinking what you said sounds like grace is really just a balance of not just mindfulness and kindness, but also accountability.
Hmm.
Because we did also acknowledge that, I did not do what I didn't do this part, but I still have the opportunity to do this in the future. And so it's not just, I think when you have the mindfulness and kindness without the accountability, it becomes a little bit more, you know, becoming more content. I think that having that sense of accountability is incredibly important with that as well, to just keep your drive going, and being mindful of what your goals are. You have to also still have that accountability.
Which goes back to having the proper systems in place. If
Mhm.
one is trying to incorporate more grace in their life, or gratitude, or name any kind of soft skill, does one have the systems to support that? Are they with a partner or a spouse that won't support failure,
Mhm.
that won't support the idea that in this moment I am fine though the chaos is around me? Am I living in a space with someone, or am I in a geographical space? Do I come from a culture that's going to suck me back into the fray?
Yeah,
And if that's the case, that's okay. Just know it's going to be harder for you to achieve that goal. So what systems are you going to set up so that you can learn to give yourself more grace, so that you can learn to be more content, so that you can not do as much comparison on social media? Do you hang with people who that's all they do is send you memes of comparison? Do they point out what the other tea purveyor is doing that you're not, right? Are the systems in place to support your goal?
I think that's incredibly important. So, did you have any final thoughts before we close out?
No, I just want all your listeners and anyone who can hear my voice to know that things will change. Yes, 2021, new year, new you, but baby, nothing's going to change if you don't change.
Mhm.
It just because a date on a calendar changes doesn't mean that everything is fine. We each as individuals have to do the work, and I'm so grateful for you, Amber, for having platforms like this where folks can build community and be poured into, even if it's virtually.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And also, you actually gave me the book Atomic Habits, and I haven't actually read it last year, so thank you again for that. This will be available on YouTube. I'll try to get it by tomorrow. Can you please let people know where they can find you and your business, and reach out to you if they would like to?
Yeah, absolutely. On all social media at Your Big Debut, YOURBIGDEBUT. My website is the same, yourbigdebutnow.com. And my name, I'm the only Burkley that I found, LaToia Burkley, on LinkedIn. I'm open to connect on any of those platforms or any of those avenues. And through my website, both through my Instagram as well. If anyone is interested in booking a discovery call, they'll find me there.
Thank you. I forgot to ask, do we have any questions? Oh, it's just Janelle. Nope. Okay. So for me, I just realized I didn't even introduce myself. So
So close with your introduction.
yeah. All right. I'm Amber Jackson. I'm the owner and culture curator, and everything under the umbrella CFO, COO of the Black Leaf Tea and Culture Shop. It is a loose leaf tea business. I also host events like this. Pre-pandemic was in person. I hosted a Young Black Professionals Mix there, which I'm incredibly excited to be hosting or partnering with John Hope to be hosting a Black History Month trivia night next month for Black History Month. It's gonna be fun. So DJ setting prizes next month. So doing that virtually next month, and I also get to host incredible panels like this, Tea Talks. So these are open conversations discussing anything from current events, cultural topics, dating, sex relationships, anything that affects the Black community on a day-to-day basis. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoy being able to host this. I have people like LaToya on here. You can find me on Instagram. The Instagram page did change, so it is now the Black Leaf Tea, TEA. The That's the same for Twitter, the Black Leaf Tea. The website is also the blackleaftea.com. I actually have a sale right now, so it's 50, not 50, ooh, not 50, 20% off of my two tea blends of Money and Salud. I am excited for a few things I have coming for this year. So I am planning on doing a Black Girl Magic curated box for International Women's Day. And I also plan on having a couple other curated boxes coming in as well, or I'm creating as well. So keep an eye on that and become, planning a few other events. The next tea talk that I plan on doing actually be on International Women's Day, which is March 8th. So that one would be Flowers for Black Women. And so it's literally just, it's not even a conversation piece. It's just a space for Black women to come and love on each other, shout each other out, give them their flowers that they deserve. Because Black women are constantly out here saving everybody. So, and it's really like I said, this is a space that I created to um, engage the community and celebrate Black culture. And this is what I truly love doing with my business and the platform that I've created with my business. So thank you for attending. Thank you for joining me, LaToya. Like I said, I'll probably get it up on YouTube by tomorrow. So thank you guys.
Have a good night. Thanks, Amber.
So
Bye bye.
bye.